Hey everyone, this is Mike with GrowersHouse.com. So today in front of me I got one of my favorite IPM products. It is Regalia by Marrone Bioinnovations. So Regalia is going to be an extract of giant knotweed, and what that extract does is it imparts giant knotweed's natural ability to defend against fungal pathogens into whatever crop you're applying it on. So you apply it either foliarly or you can root drench. So it can protect your plants either in early veg when you have small plants getting established, and definitely help you out in later flowering cycles when your plants may have large bunches of flowers on them that could be prone to things like botrytis. It is one of the products that we always have in our IPM arsenal, and not only does it protect the plant against fungal pathogens, but there has been studies that show that it just improves the general vigor, it improves the yield, it improves resistance against other pests as well. So this is another part of a good, robust IPM program, and we hope you try it out. Thanks for watching, guys. This was Mike with GrowersHouse.com. Remember to keep on growing, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Exploring Biological Pest Control Solutions webinar. I am Marco Jimenez, for those of you that are new to our webinar series. Welcome. I am the Director of Content and Video Production here at Growers House and Canacribs. I want to give a quick shout out to our fans, our Canacribs fans, over 285,000 subscribers and growing. We are super stoked about a tour we have coming up. We're filming in late May, so next month, early June, we're going to be filming 3 episodes out in Maryland, working at Colta, SunMed, and District Cannabis, all of which are 3 beautiful facilities that we'll be bringing you some really cool education and information on. Very excited about that. Wanted to welcome you to the Growers House Ag Solutions webinar officially. It's also featuring our Canacribs technical crop advisor, Mike Chang. Mike and I will be joined this week by our guest, Brian Guess from ProFarm, formerly known as Marrone Bio. Please consider Growers House Ag and our Canacribs technical crop advisors as your trusted source for home and commercial cultivation solutions. For enterprise support from industry professionals, contact Renee and her team over at growershouse.com. Just go ahead and click on the commercial tab and learn more. We've got some exciting news. We are launching a new B2B portal. In fact, it was actually launched earlier this month. It's for, ideally targeted towards our commercial customers. You get quote carts, shopping carts, requisition lists, order history, special tiered pricing. You can create lists. You have the ability to ship to multiple addresses, all on one commercial account. So sign up for that today. It'll help. I've been told it's kind of the Amazon of cultivation retail online. It's great. You guys should check it out. We'll be making some new videos of it as well pretty soon. I'm going to bring the experts on in just a sec, but really quickly wanted to familiarize you guys with the webinar platform. At the top right, you will see a couple of tabs, chat tab, a Q&A tab, polls, and handouts. Go ahead and ask any questions for the guys up in the Q&A at the top there, and we will get to those at the end of the webinar. Go ahead and start poking around as well. Answer the poll questions I got up there, and then there's a bunch of handouts that you're free to download and take with you today, including our presentation deck that Brian and Mike have meticulously put together for you guys today. A lot of really, really interesting information in there about IPM. I think this is going to be one of our better webinars as far as technical knowledge, and yeah, so go ahead and download that now, and I will also include it in the follow-up email with you guys after the webinar. I'm going to go ahead and bring Mike in here. Mike, hop on into the webinar. There you are. Welcome.
Hey, everybody.
How's it going? Good to see you again. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Looking forward to this chat. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this chat for a while.
Yeah, I know this is one of your I guess maybe passions or something. This
something like that. Yeah. I like IPM stuff a lot.
Nice, good, yeah. And so to introduce again, the folks that are new to our webinars, go ahead and introduce yourself and please let everybody know kind of what you do here at Growers House and Cannacrib's Technical Crop Advisor.
Yeah, so I'm Mike Chang. I'm one of the technical crop advisors at Cannacribs and one of the agronomists at Growers House. We basically work directly with clients to kind of provide more modern agronomic solutions to their growing needs, whether it's like IPM or nutrient consulting, things like that. Grow room audits, little things to just dial people in or get people started. We like to think of ourselves as like the more modern link to more professional solutions like ProFarm, Marone, things like that. So yeah, we just I worked in the ag industry for a while, and we're just trying to bring that here into this medicinal plant space.
Nice. So yeah, you guys are ready to help in any way, right? Like you can roll into a facility that's already existing and kind of point out maybe some opportunities for improvement and bring those solutions in. And because we're connected to Growers House, you can get better deals than anywhere else. You can set up the commercial account, and then you get, you get assigned a commercial account manager who follows you throughout the process, making sure your orders are on time. It's a really unique scenario that I think
we're trying to adapt the farm management model over to cannabis a little bit, because a lot of the times these farms work very closely with their suppliers, because a lot of their suppliers have to deliver these products on a timely basis. We have to apply things at certain times for certain crops. I think cannabis is moving that way, and we want to definitely make sure we provide that same level of service to our medicinal plant growers.
Cool. And then tell me a little bit more about our Lunch and Learn series. We did one with, I believe, Brian and Marone Bio last month or earlier this month. We're going to be doing another one next month at our Phoenix Growers House location in Phoenix with Grodan. If folks wanted to sign up for that, obviously they can check out our social media and reach out to us through our website to learn more. But what happens at these Lunch and Learns that they could be expected to?
People can just come out too. Basically, last week we had Brian out, and we had a lot of good discussions with local growers, local commercial cultivators on the use of Marone products, just the use of IPM and IPM strategies in general. So we like to think of it as kind of like a come in, we got some food, let's just talk shop. Let's bring back that old like hydro store vibe. But instead of a lot of conjecture and anecdotes, we're bringing in industry pros or like guys that have worked in the commercial ag space to kind of adapt their knowledge. Like we had Netafim, we had Brian from ProFarm. And then next month, we want to have Wesley or someone from Grodan to kind of explain their products, show what's new, show what works, show what hasn't worked, and kind of share our experiences and kind of learn and grow as growers.
Nice. And cool. So today's topic is IPM, which we've covered on a few different webinars. Last month, we did biological, insect solutions for IPM. So IPM, it seems for commercial growers out there, obviously it could be a make or break, right? Like you get some bad mildew, you get infested with, certain types of insects, and you're looking at some pretty serious money down the drain. So we're hoping, by the end of this webinar, we'll educate the folks that are on it. And then for those of you that are, watching this on YouTube, obviously, you could stop, start, rewind. You'll see links in the bio underneath in the description of how to reach out to Mike, reach out to Brian, or anybody from our Growers House team to help get you guys some quick solutions. Because obviously these are things that, if not handled quickly and efficiently, could get out of control really quick. So cool. I'm going to go ahead and bring Brian on, and then I will bow out till the end of the webinar for the Q&A section. But I will be in the background tinkering. So Mike, let's go ahead and introduce Brian to the audience. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Good morning. Well, hey, thanks for having me here. I'm a big fan of Cannacribs. I remember the first episode watching it on YouTube, and I have a trivia question. Going off script for Mike and Marcos. I have some hats. Who can in the chat? What was the first Cannacribs issue or episode? What facility was it at? And I remember watching it, so I'm honored to be here with you guys today. I throw that first farm in the chat, and I'll hook you up with some cool swag.
Nice. We got some swag. All right, cool. We already got that first swag question out of the way. Well, Brian, I know you pretty well because we've worked even before I was back into the cannabis world. So if you could kind of introduce yourself and who you work for and what you guys do there.
Excellent. Yeah, Brian Gett, ProFarm is our new company name. If you're unfamiliar with that, it is originally Marone Bio Innovations. We went through a name change, and my background is production agriculture, organic citrus, and the organic industry has kind of been my passion from the very beginning. In the last 5 years, I've been tasked with supporting the cannabis growers with our product portfolio, and it's really been fun learning the nuances within the cannabis space. I've been able to pull from my experience and knowledge from production agriculture and organic systems and implement tank mix compatibility ideas, stuff that we're doing out on production ag, bring it indoors into cannabis. And it's really been good bringing those two worlds together. And at the end of the day, an aphid's an aphid, a thrips is a thrips. There's some nuances, but we got to kill them all, and we got to keep them for you guys. So it's
exactly, yes.
The
war does not end. Yeah, just because the landscape changes, the war is still the same. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, let's just dive right into it. It's getting warmer now. Spring has sprung, and we're going to start seeing these pests come in. We've talked a lot about aphids. We've talked a lot about insects, but spider mites is one of the things that's going to come more prevalent as we're heating up and kind of drying out from the springtime. Here's some good examples of spider mite damage, some examples of two-spotted spider mite, and of course, one thing that we're seeing a lot more of now in the cannabis space, now that people are growing outdoors, doing hoop houses, doing more commercial ag style growing of this particular type of crop, lepidopterans. The worms have emerged and they're starting to go crazy. So I see on the slide we have a couple of different products that we use as well as Venerate. Like, can you speak to kind of like what your kind of knee-jerk response would be if someone said they had some sort of like soft-biting insect in their cannabis?
No, great question, Mike. So I got some good pictures from the field. So lepidopterans is a broad classification for caterpillars and moths, and there's a couple different products that you can use. Typically, you're going to see this kind of in your outdoor settings. The pictures there to the far right in the middle, those are the worms or the lepidopterans specifically targeting. I think that's a bullworm, or I don't know exactly which specific species, but if you move your vision to the far left picture, that is botrytis is coming in after worm damage on that. So you're going to have these primary pests, but these primary pests can also lead to these secondary disease or outbreaks in your operation. So for controlling worms, it's fairly easy. Dipel, Zentari, and Javelin are some commercial products available. Those are BT products, Bacillus thuringiensis, and there's a couple different strains of BTs. So really look at the labels and determine what pest identification is key. So identifying what worm species or lepidopteran species you have, and then figuring out, okay, what strain of BT is going to have the most activity. And then Venerate CG is a broad spectrum lepidopteran product, but typically I like to mix the two. Venerate is compatible with your BT sprays. It brings another mode of action, and you get a little more residual with Venerate when you put it in with the BT. So the combination of those two are a great mix for controlling lepidopterans. And then I was going to go back, Mike, to that first slide.
Yeah.
With the two-spot spider mites. Oops, sorry, I touched it.
There you go.
So really pest identification. In the bottom right-hand picture, you can see the two dots on the back side of the mite. That's how you know you have two-spot spider mites. And that's the name of the game in IPM. First, identifying and quantifying your treatment thresholds. I get a lot of phone calls. Oh, I have this pest. So I'm like, well, how many do you have? I just found one. I was okay, just because you have one in the operation doesn't mean you have to spray. You need to figure out, okay, where's that economic threshold, where I'm going to start seeing loss, and then that would be kind of your treatment timing. But preventative at the end of the day is the best approach, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that positive idea is so important. Like you said, even with the BT, a lot of people say like there's no more efficacy left in BT, but they don't realize like there are now good subspecies that have identified as good targets for certain pests. Like, yeah, Zentaris does not work as well as like Javelins, I feel, for certain soft-bodied pests in certain regions. So it's all about like knowing your region, knowing your pest for sure.
And so, reach out. There's great resources, extension agents. So if you're in California, Arizona, Oklahoma, New Mexico, each state has their agricultural extension agent, and they can help you with pest identification. They can help you trap moth flights. There's a lot of resources out there that you can really tap into that commercial growers are using on a daily basis that I want you guys to access to improve your pest identification skill level.
Awesome. Yeah, I know the Cows College in University of Arizona does that, and they're open to the public too. So that's awesome information. I would hope people would check that out more if they're going to be growing outdoors or doing hoop houses. So speaking of Venerate, can you kind of explain? Because I have I've heard a lot of confusion about like what it is. Is it alive? Is it dead? Can you explain what Venerate actually is and what it does?
Excellent. I'd love to. Really cool product. It's really been a fun using this in the field. It is Burkle Caldera is the bacteria. It is derived from the soil. We ferment it very similar to kombucha. We put it in a big vat. We feed it yeast and sugar, and the byproducts and the spent fermentation media is what offers insecticidal activity. And we have to heat kill it, so there is no living bacteria. So when you're tank mixing it with other products or worried about keeping it alive, you do not need to worry about that with Venerate because it's already heat killed. It's the byproducts from the fermentation process of Burkle Caldera is where the insecticidal property comes from. And the primary mode of action is through ingestion. So you're going to be treating that leaf surface with Venerate XC or Venerate CG. And I got it. The question came up on my screen.
Yeah.
So you're going to treat that leaf surface. Coverage is key. And then the insect is going to eat that leaf tissue with the Venerate or Burkle Caldera bacteria on it. They're going to ingest it, and it's going to kill the insect through ingestion. And that's the primary mode of action. We also see some residual. And because of that mode of action, if you have beneficial insects in your operation, they are not going to be harmed by Venerate. So if you're using your lady beetles, lacewing, or your beneficial mites, you can spray before or after application of those beneficial insects.
Got it. So this isn't like a contact kill. This is like an ingestion, like gut disruption type of a product.
Exactly.
Kind of like Azthractin would be or something like that.
Exactly. Yep. And so you can pair it. Tank mix is, I feel like tank mixing products is the future. If you're spending the money for the labor spraying one product, you really need to be looking, okay, what other products can I mix into that tank to reduce my overall sprays for labor costs and also moisture. I mean, you don't want to be spraying every day in your operation, introducing moisture into that room when you could be spraying once or twice a week with all your fungicides, insecticides, and micronutrients all in one tank. And that's where myself and Mike, we can be that resource to you. This is a good tank mix. Oh, you might want to stay away from that one. We've seen some issues. Rely on us and what we've seen work and what we've tested for the years.
That's actually a really good point because I know a lot of guys. Most applications in the cannabis space that I've seen have been usually single product plus a surfactant. So I think consolidating those into like effective multi-product sprays, less sprays is always better, especially when you're paying to dehumidify your own rooms. So
exactly. But with that being said, it's a little scary. And when I first started, and when I was on the production side, though, it's when you've never mixed something and sprayed it, there's always some hesitation. So rely on people that have sprayed it year after year and have had success with it, so you're not burning anything. And there's some nuances, pH, water hardness that you got to take into account, and that's where we can kind of guide you through it. And you can tap.
What is generally like the pH of the starting water, or even like of the solution that you'd recommend for something like that?
We recommend neutral pH is best for our products, so you don't have any binding with anything in the water.
So like 6.5 to 7-ish is probably fine.
A 7 would be recommended, but I've gone out with Entrust and Pyganic, which are on the exact opposite spectrums of the pH scale. So we have flexibility. As a manufacturer, we recommend neutral, but there is a lot of flexibility with the product.
That would make sense, especially if it's a good tank mix partner with stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then
so go ahead.
The last call out, really the only restriction is we have a 4-hour re-entry interval, or REI for short. So that is given to us by the EPA, who regulates pesticides. So legally, you could spray this product up to 4 hours before harvesting. I don't recommend spraying that late in flower, but because it's a dead bacteria, there's no residual on the flower. Nothing will test on on your testing. So you're safe to spray in flower is the main point. And I've never had any issues spraying in flower with this product.
Yeah. This is generally one of the rotational products that we recommend too.
Mhm.
Additionally with Grandivo. So I like to recommend this a lot of the time for like maybe root drenches, things like that. Like, can you go over the mode of action? How is this different from Venerate? Because I know a lot of guys think that you could exchange the two directly, but I think there's a little bit of a different mode of action between the two, right?
Correct. And it's, they're similar products, but they're different bacterias. So Grandivo CG is Chromobacterium. And if you're having aphid issues in your operation, this is the product that I would slot first for your aphid applications. We're getting gut disruption, very similar to Venerate, but we also have this reduction in Fidungacy. And Fidungacy is...
that's a good word.
It's a tough one. It took me a while to pronounce it correctly. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly now, but it's aphids give birth to live young. And when after a Grandivo or the Chromobacterium treatment, we see there's an effect on those live young. They're dead. They come out dead from the aphid. So you still could have aphid in your operation, but they're not reproducing at these rapid levels because of the Chromobacterium. So when you pair it with a contact material like an oil or like an oil product, you get that contact activity, reduce in fungusy, then rotate in with Venerate the next week, and it becomes a good IPM program holistically.
That's awesome. It's targeting that weird, obnoxious thing that aphids do where they can just asexually reproduce. Like, screw it. We'll just kick out daughters like no big deal. If we could shut that off, I feel like, because in my experience, it's never like a stiff wind brings in like a good 40% increase in aphids. It's usually like hot spots here and there from a couple flyers. So if we could reduce that fecundity, like that would be huge. To just a couple flowers, they're going to get hit on the next spray anyway. They're not going to just like burst into this little micro population. So that's really cool. I didn't really know about that mode of action on that.
Exactly. And that's why pairing it with a contact kill material, you get that instant contact. If you don't get good coverage, you saw that Chromobacterium in there too. So it's the synergistic effect of those two really knocks down those aphid populations.
Okay, that's really good info for the next coming weeks here that I will definitely be able to relay. And this has the same REI I'm seeing as Venerate?
Correct. Yep. Minimal PPE. So that PPE is protective equipment that your operation, all of our products really low risk to your applicators. So you're not going to be getting complaints from the guys that are spraying there in the operation. And really 4-hour REI, you can spray up 4 hours of harvest. Mike and myself, we're both on the same page. We like to front load you guys during veg. Get all the sprays out of the way in veg, keep it clean, preventative, and then you can kind of coast in late flower.
Got it. And this is, if I recall correctly, this is like a dry granule, right? Like this Grandivo is like suspended in a clay particle, and the Venerate's a liquid.
Correct. Yep. Venerate is our liquid product. It looks like molasses, has a sweet odor to it. And Grandivo is a WDG, wettable dispersible granule. So make sure when you are mixing Grandivo, make sure you're agitating that tank and keeping those agitators on so it doesn't settle to the bottom.
Okay, yeah, that's one thing that I have told people. If you're going to use something like Grandivo or like a wettable powder like Botanigar or something like that, keep that tank mix moving.
Exactly. Yep. And there's also, you can make a little slurry or like a premix in like a little 1 or 5 gallon bucket of that product, so you can really make sure everything gets dissolved in there, and then add it to your main 10 or 15 gallon spray tank. That's also another strategy to make sure you get good dilution.
Awesome. Okay, so I know that like in addition to the bugs, so we talked about beneficials last week. We have a good primer on some like anti-insect products here. But a big thing coming as the season changes is going to be, I feel, PM and like botrytis, downy mildew, and then the subsequent problems if you have aphids like sooty mold, things like that. So I know PM is a big issue, especially in the indoor grower spaces because of like the issues with airflow, trying to get the right humidity down with the right temperatures and the right amount of light to have that balance of transpiration. I've generally recommended Regalia up to and about until week 5 because I've seen like pretty good results and a couple of studies that show like it keeps the PM down. And I also like it because it's not really like a targeted chemical fungicide. All it really does is, in my opinion, kind of make the plant better. Can you kind of explain what exactly Regalia does, and maybe like if you guys have a better kind of information on like PM and like how PM kind of infects plants and what Regalia is doing to prevent that? Because I know we have oils to smother, we have like all these competitive exclusion products, but I don't think Regalia is just knotweed. So how is Regalia doing this? And am I
Yeah,
saying that right?
Great question, Mike. And yeah, thanks for setting it up. I mean, yeah, Regalia is the extract of giant knotweed. So it's a plant extract,
Right.
and it's purely preventative. So we're turning the plant's immune system on to fight off that powdery mildew infection. So really spraying it early, getting it on in a preventative treatment is really where it's going to be key. As you can see in these pictures, powdery mildew is it sporulates on the top of the leaf surface. Downy mildew would be on the bottom side, and then just botrytis is kind of in that.
Usually in the buds for our industry, yeah.
Yep. And kind of pairing Regalia with a contact material, because it's a plant extract. I love going out with like the PAAs. We have one, Jet Ag, or you guys might be familiar with Xeritol, Oxidate.
Yeah.
Regalia makes a good tank mix partner. You get that contact activity of the PAA or hydrogen peroxide, and then you get the ISR and SAR of Regalia. But going back, so IPM 101. So this is our plant pathology 101. This is the disease triangle. And so I have, you have 3 corners of the disease triangle. All 3 have to be present for a powdery mildew outbreak or an issue in your operation. You can have 2 of the corners of the triangle and missing the 3rd, and you're not going to have an issue in your operation. So it's when all 3 come together, which we see quite a bit in the operation.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you have that middle sweet spot where you're going to have a powdery mildew. And so my approach is really a holistic approach. Regalia isn't your only answer. I want you to attack all 3 corners of this disease triangle. And I have a little red arrow line through there. So that the first one, bottom left, is a susceptible host. So a cannabis plant, you need a susceptible host in your operation. So if you don't have any plants in your operation, you're not going to have powdery mildew. Very simple. So we treat that with Regalia CG, turning on the ISR, SAR. The very top part of the triangle is the pathogen itself, typically brought in on someone's clothes or blows in or dirty transplants. If you don't have any pathogens and you have the environment and the susceptible host, you're not going to have PM. But typically you get a spore that somehow makes it into your operation. And so you really want to focus on sanitizing and cleaning, having those little floor mats as you walk in, or a PAA, chlorine, or hydrogen chloride product will kill those spores itself. And then the bottom right of this corner is the environment, humidity and moisture. Mike, as you'll attest, those are pretty much the 2.
Airflow, yeah. They need that airflow, yeah.
So really look at your fans, look at your dehumidifiers, and then pruning, reducing that canopy, increasing airflow is also another cost-effective method. So when you have powdery mildew outbreak, don't immediately go to your fungicides. Work on these other 2 parts of the triangle too. And putting all 3 together, that's going to get a really good control and bring your operation into it. And then going back to the environment, guys that call me and they're spraying every day, I was like, man, let's back off on these sprays. Like, we really want to get it down to 1 to 2 sprays a week, a preventative IPM spray, putting all your products at one time. So then you're not introducing all that humidity into the room as you spray, and that could help PM at the end of the day too.
Yeah, and from an operational standpoint on my side, I'd be like, man, you're running your dehues at like 100%, 24. What is happening right now in your grow? So that would be an issue too, is the power consumption and just like good operating practices. You mentioned ISR and SAR a little bit. Can you explain what exactly that is? I know that's like kind of an emerging science even in the ag world. So if you can kind of explain it in kind of easy terms of like what is it? What does it do? Like, why are we even searching for that increase in our plants?
Yes. No, it's ISR is the acronym for induced systemic resistance, or SAR, systemic acquired resistance. ISR is induced systemic resistance. It's one of the mode of actions here on our on what Regalia is doing, and really they're both turning on the plant's immune system to fight off a pathogen infection just through different pathways. So SAR, systemic acquired resistance, is an increase in salicylic acid production within the plant. And so when the plant starts producing more salicylic acid, we see these antimicrobial compounds starting to accumulate too, like PR proteins, phytolexins, and phenolic compounds that were antimicrobial on a cellular level. So that's first pathway. And then ISR, induced systemic resistance, we see an increase in the jasmonic acid and ethylene within the plant. And what's really cool is SCR, we can turn it on with Regalia, but also insects, the chewing and the feeding portion, somehow it triggers an SAR response within the plant. And then also pathogen infection turns on the plant's defense mechanisms itself too. And then you go over ISR, induced systemic. There's also like chewing insects, wounding produces jasmonic acid. So these are naturally occurring processes that we're turning on with the application of Regalia in operation.
That's so interesting that you mentioned those pathways too, because like the jasmonic acid pathway, a lot of guys have speculated that has something to do with secondary metabolite production in cannabis, things like that. And a lot of guys in the past and even now still use things like earthworm castings, and they're finding that it's not the nutritive value of the earthworm castings, it's that weird ISR from the secondary metabolites of earthworm castings that boosts the plant's immune system. So we're just basically we're not adding anything. We're just increasing the innate resistance of the plant by using these products.
Exactly. We're using Mother Nature's self-defense mechanisms. We're turning them on. And so positioning this product or spraying it preventatively, you're turning on that immune system before the pathogen shows up. So then you're going to fight it off.
Got it. And I think we have a video here. So a lot of guys don't understand that PM doesn't really infect just the cells, but it's a fungus getting in the plant. So can you explain what the heck's happening with this PM spore right now?
Excellent. Yeah, this is a great video. It really brings to life what Regalia is doing. So this plant, that red pathogen, that is the powdery mildew. It's infecting on a cellular level of the plant. Your plant operation is infected with powdery mildew. And look at all these spores. All it takes is one spore to create the outbreak. The plant
so it's going through the stomata here, and it's not actually like puncturing everything. It's going between cells.
Correct. And it's growing within a cellular level, and then it's feeding off the nutrients from that plant to continue its colonization. And it's pulling its energy out of the plant to feed its sporulation.
So as it produces spores, and those spores hit the wind, basically, and then that's it.
Now your whole operation, your room, is now infected. But if the plant was sprayed with Regalia, we're going to show you what would happen. So the spores, it's not a contact material. So the spores are still in your room. They're going to stick onto the leaf tissue. This is a germ tube extension part. It's going to go in through the stomata. That is the hole. That is where plants respirate, releasing air and bringing in air. So now the pathogen is in the cell. And remember, this plant was treated with Regalia, so you're still going to get some penetration. And now
it hasn't killed it off. It's just like the plant just has like an innate resistance now.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to see it's going to dive in onto the cellular level. So the powdery mildew now is trying to suck energy from this specific cell to feed. And that's where if you pair it with a contact material, you're getting that contact activity. You're not going to kill all the cells, but you're going to kill a good amount, and then you're going to get this ISR response from Regalia.
So what's the red stuff coming off of that right now?
So the red stuff is the powdery mildew on a cellular level. The dark green and light green, those represent phytoalexins, PR proteins, these antimicrobial compounds that are produced during the ISR, SAR triggering. And they're going to bind to that powdery mildew. They're going to ultimately kill it, keeping it from spreading and infecting other plants.
And the green things are just normal things that would be endogenously produced by the cells anyway, or?
Correct. Yep. We're just increasing more of them, so the balance is tipped towards the good guys.
Oh, so it's almost like an antibody response where you're increasing like the detection and kind of response capabilities of the cell.
Exactly. Yep. And now it has enough ability to fight off that powdery mildew infection, inhibiting the spread of it. So I hope that video brought it to life a little more. I know there's a lot of science jargon and technical aspects of it, but a very interesting product and fun to see being used.
Yeah, and it's just cool to see the actual the PM going through and going between the cells like that, because I feel like that's kind of like when people ask how do they find the PM if it's not on the surface, and I always have to tell them, like, it's a fungus. It went through that. It's in that mycelium's like roots in your plant already. So.
And once you see it, it's already infected, and now it's starting to sporulate, and that's where you see those colonies on the top of the leaf, and it's already too late.
Got it. So with PM, I usually say a lot of air movement, but another big thing with air movement, or that air movement can prevent, is botrytis. And in cannabis, botrytis is like, it's the big disappointer, I feel, because you usually end up, the better your crop, the more dense your flower canopy is, the higher your potential for botrytis. I like to recommend things like Stargis and stuff, but one last thing about Regalia. The chlorophyll studies, I have seen like an increase in plant vigor, and it was pretty cool that I found that you showed us this little study that you guys have done with one university. Can you explain this real quick?
Yeah, and this is, if you've never used Regalia, I encourage you to try it. Treat half of your room with it and half without, and down to the side, down to the line of treatment, you will see an increase in green of the treated side. And we're a science-based company, so we like to back up all of our claims with science. This was done with Simon up in the Simon Fraser University up in Canada with Dr. Zamar. And so we had it treated and untreated. And you can see the picture of the untreated is significantly less green compared to the treated. And what's driving this is both A and chlorophyll B treated plant, or increase in the treated plants. And on the bars over here to the left, you see the untreated column is in the blue. The treated Regalia plant is in orange, and you can see a significant difference, or a statistical difference, in the treatment plants of both chlorophyll and A and B. And if you've ever applied Regalia, you will see a greening effect the next day of there. And I'm cautious to make yield claims, but increased chlorophyll produces more energy, a stronger, healthier plant, which ultimately increases a higher yield or bud at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And Mike, I think you've seen it. You've seen this in operations. This happen before too.
I have seen it in veg. I like to recommend it for people's moms, like maybe like a couple of days before one of their mom cuts, because I find, you get a lot of really good stem elongation, but it's like, it's not hollow growth. It's like real growth. The pith fills out very well, and you get good clone vigor. And the plants just get larger fan leaves. It just looks like a happier plant that's having better transpiration than the ones that haven't been applied.
Exactly. And we see the Regalia lasts for a bit. It peaks like day 6, day 7 is where we see this ISR. So like Mike said, treating your moms, the day before or 2 days before, hit them with Regalia. It's just going to set them up to go into that stressful environment to fight off the pathogen infection so much better. And it's just a good overall mom program, in my opinion.
Got it. So going back to the botrytis thing, I recommend this particular culture, the Amnio liquefactions. I hope I'm saying that right. I recommend it in a couple of different flavors. There's your Stargis, there was like double nickel, things like that. But what is one of the things that sets your guys' one apart? Because like we spoke about earlier, it's all about like that strain specificity now on how well it handles like tank mixing and all that other stuff. So how does Stargis like set itself apart, and how do we even use something like this?
No, great question. So our strain, Bacillus amyloidocapacious strain F727, and like Mike said, there's a handful of Bacillus products out there. I definitely recommend do your research. Each strain has its pros and cons. We've seen in trial data and analyzing the strains themselves, they have different activity on different diseases. This one was specifically screened for downy mildew and botrytis. And so we see the best activity with this. So if you have a botrytis, this would be the product I would choose first. It's a liquid formulation, and you can see sporulation in the top right-hand corner. It is a living Bacillus strain. It's a hardier product, and it's colonizing there in that peach tree dish.
So this is alive versus like the other ones that are like heat killed.
Correct. Yep. And that's where I back off 3 to 4 weeks before harvest. I'd cut off these sprays, and you should be in good shape.
I mean, even with like Bacillus subtilis product, I always stress like these are preventative products, if not for the competitive exclusion, but maybe for like some sort of like ISR that they might impart.
Exactly. That is one of the modes of action of it. And we also see very similar Regalia, pairing this with a contact, an oil, or a PAA product is another great tank mix. Yes, our Bacillus is alive, but we've been doing some field trials mixing our JetAg with Stargus and having good success and increased results, even with a peracetic acid or an oxidizer in that same tank. There's just some mixing steps. You want to do your oxidizer first, dilute it out, and then put the Stargus in, and then you're in good shape. But all those little nuances, reach out to Mike and myself, and we kind of walk you through.
Yeah, the tank mixing stuff for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the mode of action. We have 3 modes of action for Stargus here. Really 2 primary ones, and these are the active molecules called peptides. These are produced during the fermentation process from the Bacillus amylocaceus strain F727. And I keep repeating it. We might have to make that as one of the quiz questions at the end. But that I really want to drive that home. Strain specific. Do your homework on your strains and dig into the data. Very data oriented. But yeah, so these, going back to the peptides have a contact activity on the germ tube extension parts. So if you remember from that video, you have the pathogen and then you have that little tube coming out of it. That's a germ tube. So the Stargus is going to kill that germ tube. And then we also moving down to the very bottom box, induce systemic resistance. Very similar to Regalia, ISR. You're turning the plant's immune system on. This is the heavy lifter in this product. And then we get a little bit of leaf and root colonization. Little history about Bacillus. It is derived from the soil. It's a soil bacteria. So, of course, you're going to get more colonization in the soil. So if you have a Pythium, Fusarium, or any soil diseases, or even root aphids that are dragging your plant production, hit it with a little drench of Stargus, or heck, even a sprench. Get some contact with the leaf tissue, turns on the leaf tissue ISR, and then it's going to also colonize there in the soil sphere more so.
Like a low rate, high volume type of situation.
Exactly. Yep.
Awesome.
And we get, I struggle quantifying how much leaf colonization we really get on the product. I don't like to oversell our products. Each operation is a little different. UV degradation, hot humidity. It's
a bacillus. Yeah, like I say, it's there to provide some other benefit than covering your leaf with itself. You don't really want it to cover your leaf with itself. It should be doing something else. Yeah.
Exactly. Think in your mind when you're using this product, it's the ISR and the contact of these peptides. Those are probably your 2 primary modes of action that you're getting out of it.
So it's more of like increasing the natural innate abilities of the host rather than giving the host like a weird floating chemical inside of it that does the work. You're just using the host's natural responses just amped up.
Exactly. Specific for botrytis.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And this is one slide that I saw that was really cool because this is the type of testing that I would do with these types of products, and I'm glad that someone has already. But can you explain these 2 petri dishes here?
Exactly. This is demonstrating the colonization and that competitive exclusion aspect that Mike was touching on. Science-based company, every claim we make, we really want to show it with data and visual deals. So we can start on the left. You can see the untreated. So this is a colony, pathogen colony within the petri dish, really colonizing, taking over. And then the petri dish to the right. Down the middle, we did a dribble of Stargus, and you can see the Stargus colonizing in there. And it's actually colonizing around the pathogen community, which is pretty cool. And there is our competitive exclusion, keeping it from colonizing and infecting that your colas at the end of the day and reducing yield.
So, okay, I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than that. And that's one thing that I wish we had a lot more data of, and I'm glad that we're starting to see this data kind of come into the cannabis space. Is like we have to show efficacy before we commit to a year's worth of doing this in a program, because like you really can't know in an IPM program whether something is efficacious or not unless you run it for a little bit properly, right? So getting rid of all the fluff and just focusing on like data-driven solutions, I think is going to help out a lot.
Exactly. And ask if you're being pitched a new product or something new, ask for the data. Yeah. There's nothing wrong. I always tell people be very cautious of these fly-by-night companies that are coming in saying their product does everything. Like, well, products usually going to do 1 or 2 things. Say, well, where's the data that's supporting it? Where's some evidence? And dig deep. And there's nothing wrong with asking for data.
Awesome. Well, I think Marco's going to come back in here. I think he has a couple of questions.
Hey, good job, guys. That was amazing. Some amazing products you guys have, Brian. I was just like Science 501 class. So thank you for putting that together. And obviously we're limited with time with these webinars, but so for anybody watching, this recording will be available most likely tomorrow morning. So you'll get an email. You can start and stop and go back and learn. But we do have a couple of questions so far. And for those of you that are still on, please feel free to ask a few more. But it looks like Jeremiah from Pennsylvania, he is asking about whether the Marrone Bio products contain pepronol,
PBOs.
PBOs,
yeah.
Sorry,
Ibuprofen or something like that. The carrier that you see. There's no synthetic or petroleum distillate products in your stuff, right?
Correct. We're the EPA does a really good job of regulating, and we're OMRI and organic approved on all of our products. And so there's certain inert ingredients that have to be approved, and we're strict of those. Yeah, and on testing. I mean, shoot, I've been working in this space for 5 years, and I've had some test issues, but if they thought it was our products, but it ultimately reviewed to like contamination. So our stuff, I'm not worried. I'm not worried one bit. I haven't had any issues. So you're safe to spray in flower.
Great. And thanks for the question at the open, Brian. As far as Canacribs, it was actually
Glasshouse.
Miguel got it. Yeah, Glasshouse Farms. That was back in 2016, right when I was at Green Bros at the time. I was one of the earlier sponsors of that episode, so we snuck in on that one, which was amazing. But in the more recent episode at Glasshouse Farms that we filmed about 2 years ago, we had one of our marketing partners for that episode was a Nutrafog, and as you know, Nutrafog is a company that produces a way of pushing out fog into a facility, and the fog covers all the plants everywhere you could possibly imagine. So it looks like Russ from Oregon is asking if these products can be used in any fogging equipment.
Yes, yeah, all Regalia can be fogged, Venerate can be fogged. I think Grandivo, you're going to run into some issues.
Yeah, that's the particle type, right?
Yeah, I don't think we've had good success. I struggle with fogging. Fogging's concept is low volume, low rate. Mm-hmm. And with biologicals, contact or coverage is key. I think spraying a biological product, you're better off doing a foliar spray at a high water volume. You're getting good coverage. Fogging is still a good option. I would not replace a foliar spray with a fogger. But yeah, you can. It's a good tool, but think in your mind, you still want to get a foliar spray in once a week.
Right. Yeah, and I totally agree. I think people have to take into consideration the type of product they're using. If they were using a chemical pesticide, I feel like low volume would be great. Mm-hmm. But since the nature of the things that we're putting like fermentation solution stuff. So ideally, we want it at a sufficient volume to cover that surface area, or in a sufficient volume to start those induced responses, right?
Correct. And if the spray, so I mean, these for the insecticides, the insect has to consume this product. So if the bugs are under the bottom sides of the leaves, you got to be spraying on the bottom. So really spraying where those insects are is going to help that application and control. And that's where fogging, it's tough. You get the room and it settles down. I guess you get some carry. I don't know. I've always struggled getting fogging to really work effectively for me.
Yeah, I've never seen it really implemented other than for maybe chemical fungicides, things like that, PAA sprays. Mm-hmm. Things like that, it makes a lot of sense for. But for anti-insect stuff, I think, getting the product on the plant at the right volume, at the right rate is probably better. There's a question about root aphids that I think is pretty good.
That's from Ashley. Ashley's out in Maryland, where we're going to be filming one of our next Canacribs episodes. So at District Cannabis. So what's up, Ashley? We'll see you in a month. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, no. His question is, do you recommend Venerate as a drench versus fog for root aphids? And in that vein, can you talk a little bit about Grandivo as a thing for aphids too, especially root aphids? Yeah,
fogging is going to be tricky because it's not going to get that penetration. I really think coverage is key with root aphids. Root aphids are tough, and this kind of touches on, we have some great products, but there's also a lot of other products out there. To control root aphids, you're going to have to use more than just our stuff. You're going to have to get really aggressive in the beginning and really think economic thresholds. You're not going to be able to eliminate root aphids 100%. You're going to have to control them. I would also talk with Mike about fertility. Weak plants struggle with recovering from root aphid chewing. Get in some like Regalia Stargus drenches in there. Mike has some other great nutritional products that you mix in with your insecticides, like a Venerate drench or Regalia or a Grandivo drench, PFR 97, Met 52 or M50. I think Lollyguard M52. I've been hearing good things about. The oils in the root zone scare me a little bit with the stress. But talk to Mike. Mike knows he has a good root aphid protocol.
No, I completely agree with you. And generally, I didn't even know about the fecundity thing with the Grandivo, like the reduction in the asexual propagation, because it makes so much sense. Because I would generally recommend Grandivo, especially since it's a wettable dry granule, and it's not great to foliar, especially mid to late cycle, but you could root drench it all day, and I feel like it's a good product for that. So stacking something like that, where I thought I was getting kind of like good contact kill with something like PFR or maybe a Bavaria product, always gave me good results too, where I get like something to kill them and or slow them down at least, and then they get mopped up by a Bavaria or something that'll kind of co-inhabit the soil and kind of take them out slowly or keep them down, keep the numbers from going up. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's going to be a battle. I mean, I don't know of anybody that's like 1 or 2 applications and they've cleared the root aphid. It's going to be a couple weeks and a strong program, and preventative is the best way. Starting clean, staying clean. I mean, I know everyone says it, but there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially knowing your IPM history, if you've had root aphids for the past couple of weeks, maybe in your transplant, you're adding a little bit of Grandivo, or that's just a part of a root drench every once in a while with maybe like some azadirachtin or something else that disrupts their feeding, or finding a different mode of action, basically, to stack.
Yep. Exactly.
Awesome.
Nice. Great. And yeah, I apologize, Ashley. Ashley is a woman. She is from, I don't know why I assumed Ashley was a man, but anyways, so cool. We got 10 minutes left. Let's see. I think we're out of Q&As. Chris Jennings, thank you for logging on. Just wanted to give some love out there. Excited to be a part of this global cannabis boom that's happening here. Let's see what else. We got the polls there. Let's see who's winning in the polls. I have for managing pests in an indoor gardening facility, which approach do you prefer? It looks like we're split with that one. Regular monitoring and targeting intervention based on data versus preventative measures such as physical barriers and cultural practices. Let's see, for IPM strategy, what do you think is more effective for managing pests in indoor gardening facilities? Biological control using natural predators seems to be winning in that poll versus chemical pesticides. There was one question earlier on when we started our kind of diving into what this webinar was going to be about. I asked, are these chemicals? And I think, Mike, you mentioned the answer is technically, what is the answer to that? I mean, these are organic products, right? Still?
Yeah, I'm sure Brian could. So they're not chemically derived or manufactured pesticides. Basically, they're the leftover stuff from natural biological organisms and processes. Brian, if you can elaborate.
I guess biopesticides. In our mind, I think like a synthetic molecule is a molecule that it's made or derived from like a chemical manufacturing. So you have your like Eagle 20. Eagle 20 is a synthetic molecule that is it's a little dangerous. And then you have these biopesticides, either bacteria, fungi, plant extracts. Biorationals is another one. These are naturally occurring products. And then for a product to be organic certified or OMRI certified, it has to be derived naturally. So I'm trying to think. A good example, Vestron, they have a spider venom that's naturally occurring in the environment, but the manufacturing process is synthetic. So it's synthetically manufactured. So that kicks them out of OMRI certification.
Right.
Whereas like Entrust or Pyganic or Entrust, those are naturally occurring. You have a synthetic version and you have an organic version. And so all of our stuff is naturally derived, organic, and OMRI approved. And the big thing, worker safety. I mean, this stuff is safe. It is a safe product. I would be comfortable with my child spraying it when he's of age. But you look at some of these harsher materials that I see out in farm that's just like, man, I don't want to spray those, and I don't want my family around it.
And in the cannabis industry, where there's no crop insurance in the cannabis industry, and one misapplication can incur incredible crop damage. One of the reasons why I like to recommend your products is like if you misapply, you're just out a couple bucks. You know, like like you misapplied, you overapplied, no big deal. Like heck, you can wash it off with water if you wanted to. There's like no risk of plant damage, but all these botanical oils and stuff that people are using, like anything that has like a minty smell or a cinnamon smell, anything like that has the huge potential for plant damage, and I don't like recommending those. Whereas with your products, there really is no risk for that.
Yep. And I've gotten calls where it's simple mistakes that a new sprayer comes in and does 2 times the recommended rate, and like the oils and other products are going to burn. Our stuff very safe. You have to follow the label on the recommended rates, but if there's accidents, let us know. We can kind of walk you through it. But at the end of the day, I'm not concerned on the phytotoxicity of the plant. That's great product. And I think you're in the greenhouse, you're in a controlled environment, the air is recirculating. When you're outside in ag, you have airflow, you have dilution factors, and that's where I really drive home. Picking soft chemistries that are not exposing your workers and yourself to these harmful fumes and respiratory issues.
Yeah. And ultimately the end consumer as well, right? Cannabis is a very delicate flower. It's ingested. A lot of the folks that consume it, unfortunately, are ill already, and we don't want to be putting any harsh chemicals in their bodies in addition to what's already happening. So that's really great, man. That's sounds like some amazing stuff that you guys have dialed in. And yeah, I think we're pretty much at time, guys. Thank you, Ian. Ian in the chat, just natural predator frass, I guess was Ian's suggestion as maybe to the poll question. But yeah, thank you again, Brian. I guess where would people reach you that are watching? What's the best way to get a hold of you, Brian, for any questions?
My work cell phone, call or text anytime. I mean, like I said, if there's an immediate mixing question, I'm always available via text. Mike also, I'd rather run stuff through Mike, and then Mike can reach out to me, but reach out to me direct. I'm technical support here. If you guys buy our stuff, I want you to feel the support. If you need me to come out to the operation, I can do that too. But a lot of times, shoot me a text anytime. I can kind of walk you through on rates, timing, or just anything that pops up. There's a lot of people that buy the stuff. The new application nuances are tricky. I get it. The late reading the label. These labels are tricky, and we're here to support you through it.
Yep. It's better to have all the questions answered before you spray than wonder after you've sprayed.
Yeah, then you can't sleep at night. I mean, you do not want those sleepless weekends where I'll wait till Monday. Hit us up on the weekends. We're here to help you.
Yep.
Great. So then if we are going to go through Mike to get to you, Mike, you're Mike at growershouse.com. It's that easy. And if anybody has any questions about this webinar or wants a follow-up conversation with me, I'm at Marco at growershouse.com or Marco at cannacribs.org. And yeah, I think that covers it, guys. Thank you both again for all the work with this.
Yeah. And one last thing, if there are commercial cultivators out there that want to implement these types of products into their programs, please reach out to us. We can adapt it into your program or kind of build you a new program, but we can definitely get you set up on a trial or anything like that.
All right. Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the end button, and we'll see you guys on the next one next month for Growdown webinar.
Thanks, Brian.
One as well.
Marcos, pleasure, guys.
All right. Thanks, Brian.